Hey guys, welcome to Truckin' and Talkin' episode 5. My name is Matt, and yeah, it's been a few weeks since I've done an episode of this, mainly just because I've been busy and all of that. And yeah, so I'm going to be doing something slightly different in this episode. I'm going to be driving as normal. We're going to be taking these diggers from Salzburg to Malmo, and we're going to be driving the MAN TGX Euro 6, which is a mod by Mad Master. It's a very good mod. I would advise you to check it out if you play single player. And yeah, we're going to be doing this. And what I'm going to do is separately record me commentating on whatever, because it's too distracting for me to drive, talk, look over at the second monitor, and do all that at the same time. So I'm going to try it in this format and make it as seamless as possible. And yeah, I hope you enjoy. So yeah, I will resume this from a different perspective. See you then. Alright, so the first thing I'm going to say is that I've applied what is a video effect in the editor that I use, which is supposed to make the video look slightly sharper. It's supposed to brighten up the screen, and for me in this preview it looks alright, but obviously I'll have to see what you think when you see this on YouTube. I mean, I tried currently two different editors. This one, VideoPad Professional, which the main reason I bought it was because it was a lifetime license, and the other one is HitFilm Express, which I've used before, and they pit up similar effects, although this does, being paid, pit up slightly more. And the main difference though I've noticed is when I use VideoPad to edit, I have no crashes at all. Recently when I've been using HitFilm, it will crash randomly whenever and lock up my entire system, and I have to force restart, and whatever I was doing I have to start all over again. Unless it's already saved, then in that case I can resume, but it's still a inconvenience having to restart the whole system. And they both have this sort of effect, which in HitFilm is kind of an adjust manually thing, but it has a default setting. With this you can do the same or use the automatic. I've used the automatic and I've compared, both of the effects between with it on and without, and in my view it does brighten up the video a bit and make it look nicer, and hopefully more enjoyable to watch. But anyway, so enough of talking about editors and whatever. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about, well, the topics that I intended to talk about. So this first one is actually quite a long one. It's probably going to take up most of the video. And by the way, I'll leave links, as I always do, to all the topics I talked about in the video. And if you want to read them yourself, or look at any of the pictures in these articles, which I may put up on the screen, I don't know, but you can read them in more detail. Alright, so this first one, and they're all from Ars Technica as well. I'm sure I already mentioned that, but anyway. First one is by Timothy B. Lee, and it's by Waymo. There's no way there. The way we regulate self-driving cars is broken. Here's how we fix it. That's the title of the article, and he goes into detail by saying the first driverless cars will be rented, not sold. That has major implications. Okay, so we can't buy these cars. So, and I thought honestly the whole point of owning a car was that you owned it, whilst if you rent it, well, you don't really own it, do you? But anyway, so it says, last month an Uber self-driving car struck and killed a pedestrian in the Ain-Hertzberg in Temple, Arizona. The tragedy highlights the need for a fundamental rethink of the way federal government regulates car safety, because apparently currently the way it is it's dependent on the state. So for example, Arizona is quite laid back with what testing they did on self-driving cars, in California, for example, these are the two examples they used. California is very strict. So, and also Uber, well, they've had a history of this sort of stuff. You can put in just Uber lawsuit into Google and pages of results will come up. So the key issue is the current system is built around an assumption that the cars will be purchased and owned by customers, but the pioneers of the driverless world, including Waymo, Cruise and Uber, are not planning to sell the cars to the public. Instead, they are planning to build driverless taxi services that customers will buy a one-time ride on, which is, well, no different to ordinary taxi works. You take one journey and then you pay the driver for it, you know. What it says is this has big implications for the way regulators approach their jobs. Federal car regulations focus on ensuring that the car is safe at the moment it rolls off the assembly line. But as last month's crash makes clear, safety of a driverless taxi service depends on a lot more than just the physical features of the car themselves. Like the driver actually paying attention, but that's a whole nother topic altogether. But yeah. For example, the dashcam footage from last month's Uber crash showed the safety driver looking down at a lap for 5 agonizing seconds before the failed crash. Should Uber have done more to train and supervise its safety drivers? Should Uber have continued to put 2 people in each car rather than switching to a single driver? Not only are there no federal rules on these questions, at the time of the crash the public was completely in the dark about how Uber and its competitors were dealing with the issue. That was particularly because of the current administration had a philosophical commitment to minimal regulation, but also because the current legal framework developed under both Democratic and Republican administrations isn't designed to address this kind of issue. Right now, Congress is considering legislation to exempt tens of thousands of self-driving cars from conventional car safety regulations. It's a reasonable idea. Those regulations are a poor fit for fully autonomous vehicles, and the technology is changing so fast, for any regulations written today are likely to be obsolete in a few years. I guess, and that's not surprising really, because you consider how the technology changes. You can't really carry over the previous laws. Or you can try, but things like this will happen. I can almost guarantee that. But in exchange for this regulatory release, Congress should insist a lot more security for the testing and development of self-driving cars. Driverless car advocates worry correctly that the premature regulation could hamper the development of this potentially life-saving technology, but officials could do a lot more to promote transparency and provide oversight without hampering progress. So I guess this really comes back to something that wasn't really mentioned in the article, but being proactive versus reactive. You know, you're proactively fixing these issues before they ever come up, you know, not reacting to this sort of thing. And the next subtitle is why conventional regulations don't work for driverless cars. Federal car safety regulations have traditionally been based on a thick book of rules called the Federal Motor Vehicle Safety Standards, FMVSS. These regulations, developed over decades, establish detailed performance requirements for everyday related parts of car, brakes, tires, headlights, mirrors, etc., and a lot more. Airbags includes, obviously. Before a car can be introduced onto the market, the manufacturer must certify that the vehicle meets all of the requirements in the current version of the FMVSS. A car maker must certify that the brakes can stop the car within a certain number of feet. The airbags can deploy safely within passengers of various heights, and that the tires can run for many hours without overheating and so forth. No different to what regulations a car manufacturer has to go through if they're going to sell a car in Europe or in the UK. Yeah, that's different, but that's a whole different thing I won't get into. Federal regulations don't say much about how companies develop and test cars, bringing them to their market. In the era of conventional cars, they didn't need to. Development and testing was generally conducted on private test tracks where they posed no danger to the public. Then the car companies would provide the government with documentation the car met standards in the FMVSS before putting them on the market. But that approach does not work for driverless cars anymore. Not surprisingly, really, but there you go. And companies that do some testing of driverless cars on a closed course, but it's impossible to reduce a full range of real-world situations in a private facility. So at some point, car makers need to put self-driving cars on public roads for testing purposes before a manufacturer is able to clearly demonstrate that they are safe. In effect, this makes the public involuntary participants in a dangerous research project. So far, the favoured approach by most driverless car advocates has been for federal officials to simply throw up their hands at this problem. Legislation passed to the House last September, and the company legislation currently stored in the Senate would carve out board exemptions for the FMVSS for driverless cars. Again, there's some logic to this. It's true for some FMVSS requirements, they don't make full sense for driverless cars, and it would take years to update the rules, as would be expected. Or I would expect, I wouldn't expect they could just be instantly used. I would expect that there would need to be changes. By updating the FMVSS, I feel like I've said that a billion times now, is necessary nor sufficient for effective regulations of driverless cars. It's perfectly possible to make an FMVSS compliant driverless car by starting with a conventional car which already meets all the FMVSS requirements and adding self-driving gear to it. In fact, Waymo is planning to do exactly that for its Phoenix taxi service with a fleet of Chrysler Pacific minivans. At the same time, there are many important aspects of running a driverless taxi service that aren't addressed at all by the FMVSS, and this includes protecting driverless cars from cyber attacks. If you ever seen Fast and Furious 8, you'll know what that means all too well. Driverless car safety, companies needing rigorous process for testing that isn't just determined by the state. Companies need a thorough investigation for crashes during the test phase, and commercial overseeing of the car when it's launched to make sure it's okay, and all that kind of usual common sense stuff. Most of these issues aren't covered by the FMVSS, which is kind of crazy really if you think about it, and they probably shouldn't be either. The FMVSS is supposed to focus on objective metrics like stopping distance, and that can be measured in a lab or on a test track, but no numerical measurement that can capture how rigorous a company's cyber security policies are and how thoroughly a company performs post-crash investigations. Moreover, the technology is so new that it would be a mistake to write detailed regulations on any of these topics now, but what regulators could do is focus on transparency and oversight. The public is going to share the road with potentially dangerous cars, driverless cars, which should at least have a timely and detailed information about how those vehicles are performing and which steps these companies like to take protecting public safety. Excuse me. The next, I'll probably only do, probably only going to do one more sub-report on this because it's very long, and otherwise I'll spend the whole video talking about one topic, which would be kind of boring, I think. Crash reports could provide an early warning system. At least one state has taken to an important step in the right direction. California requires companies testing driverless cars to report every time their vehicle gets into a crash. This requirement has produced a steady stream of data about how companies in California are performing, but most states lack rules like this, in part because competition to attract self-driving cars companies has led to the race to the bottom in state safety rules. No surprise there. This includes Arizona and Pennsylvania, where two states where Uber has done extensive testing. In most of these states, we don't hear about driverless car crashes unless someone's involved tells the media about it. This means we don't tend to hear about most particular spectacular crashes, like in 2017, an incident in Tempe, Arizona, where an Uber vehicle rolled over, but the public has no way of knowing many other crashes might have occurred and didn't attract the attention of the media. And it basically just continues on about that sort of thing. And at the bottom it says something interesting, that a cruise vehicle was recently ticketed by a police officer who believed the car had gotten too close to a pedestrian on San Francisco street. Cruz says the cop is wrong and the car gave the pedestrian plenty of room, and that's the data to prove it. If that's true, why not release it? And if companies won't release this kind of information voluntarily, why not require them to do so? And that's a very good question. I think I'm going to leave that topic with. And there's a lot more about this article that goes into more detail, and you can read that if you want. I'm not going to read it while I'm on this video otherwise, because I'll end up reading about it for the next 20 years probably. Alright, so the next thing I'm going to go on about is this, the Huawei MateBook X Pro review. No longer just a MacBook clone. I only recently, this morning while I'm doing this voiceover, found out about this, and yeah, it looks a lot like a MacBook clone, but apparently it's not just that anymore. Apparently Huawei's, however you pronounce their name, their strategy choices make this new laptop much better than the original. Last year's MateBook X, wow, what a name, pushed Huawei further into the PC's market than it ever done before. While it had a design that allowed it to masquerade as a trendy ultrabook, it demanded quite a few compromises from users. Its subpar battery life and too low memory, along with other shortcomings, made the MateBook X less attractive than its shiny exterior suggested. Huawei zeroed in on shortcomings of the MateBook X with its successor, the new MateBook X Pro. On paper, the new laptop is leaps and bounds better than the original. Its 8th gen CPU, the 3K touchscreen, which I've not heard of, to be honest. I've not heard of 3K resolution, but okay. An estimated 15-hour battery life, and even a discrete graphics card. But a brief look at the MateBook X Pro forced Huawei to make a few sacrifices. Thankfully, those sacrifices do not overshadow the well-executed improvements that make this device more than a capable laptop in the field. I'll read you a couple of the specs here. So as it said, the screen's a 13.9-inch 3K screen that's an IPS panel. The OS it comes with Windows 10 Home. CPU is an i7 8550U. It has 16 GB of RAM, presumably DDR4. GPU that it has in it is an Intel HD 620 plus 2 GB NVIDIA GeForce MX150 GPU. The storage is a 512 GB PCIe SSD. The networking is AO211 AC, as you'd expect. The ports is one USB Type A, one USB Type C, and one Thunderbolt 3 port, and one headphone jack. The weight's 2.8 pounds. The battery is 57.5 watt hours. Starting price is still unknown, and the other perks has a recessed webcam, power button with integrated finger sensor, Windows Hello Ready, which, whether you like that part of Windows or not, could be a good thing or not. So what we talk about here is the look and feel. The MacBook influence remains in the MateBook X Pro's design, but Huawei seems more comfortable putting its own spin on the second generation of its flagship Ultrabook. The MateBook X Pro feels bigger than Huawei's original laptop thanks to the suitable changes the company made to its chassis design, screen and internals. Measuring 14.6mm thick, so 1.46 centimeters thick at the widest point and weighing 2.8 pounds. The new laptop takes up more space than its predecessor, while most OEMs live to die by the thin and light doctrine, I think, is what they say. Huawei sacrificed millimeters and ounces to make space for more powerful CPU, 2 graphics cards, and more versatile array of ports. Nevertheless, Huawei describes the MacBook X Pro as pure and invincible, and I'd say there's a more solid argument for former rather than the latter. The laptop's purity comes from its unscribed lid and chassis, the lid only being Huawei's company logo, and all metal chassis skiffed. Oh god, I can't even read that. Only by the diamond cut edges tracing the outline of the machine, even around the area where the keyboard is clean, stamped only by a slim speaker grills hugging the left and right of the keyboard, and the combination fingerprint reader and power button at the top right corner. Mammoth touchscreen on the MacBook X Pro adds the purity of its design. While it's a 13-inch notebook, the 13.9-inch display with 3.2 aspect ratio makes it feel like a larger device. A mere 4.4mm bezel surrounds the 3K panel, giving the device a 91% screen-to-body ratio, which is pretty good. I think the monitor I use only has 70% or something, but it doesn't have a massive bezel, but it's more than that, that's for sure. And I do like more screen and less bezel, to be honest, as well as an IPS panel. I really like that as well. Even after seeing the MacBook X Pro at a briefing over a month ago, my first reaction when I reviewed it the first time was, wow, that's a big display. The quality of the touchscreen combined with the nearly non-existent bezels and aspect ratio made the MacBook X Pro a solid device to use as my regular work laptop. Huawei also added an eye comfort mode that filters out excessive blue light to make it easier to use for long periods of time, something I greatly appreciate as someone who spends far too much time staring at various sizes and types of screens. You and me both. Quad speakers by Dolby Atmos support and quad far-field mics live inside the MacBook X Pro, upping the sound and voice recognition quality with the previous notebook, which is good. We also improved nearly every spec from the MacBook X. The new laptop can either have a Core i5 8250U CPU or the i7 8550U, the Intel UHD graphics, an optimal 2GB video card, and either 8 or 16GB of RAM, or either a 256 or 512GB SSD. So it's going to be super fast. I'm most happy to see the Solidarity 4GB RAM option disappear, which, by the way, if you're running 4GB of RAM now in 2018 with modern applications or whatever, you really should upgrade or get a new PC, because the last time I think I would have used 4GB of RAM and thought it was acceptable was when we were using Windows XP, to be honest. But you know, that support ended now almost 4 years ago. As it wasn't quite equipped to support the inevitable demands put on the original MacBook X, I would certainly have been enough memory to handle the workloads possible with the MacBook X Pro's internals. While the connectivity environment on the MacBook X Pro remains minimalist, Huawei did make a couple of welcome changes on the right. One side is a USB Type-A port, an option that is lacking in the original MacBook X and contributes to the laptop's new increased thickness. And on the left side remains a headphone jack and one USB Type-C port and a Thunderbolt 3 port. Both Type-C ports support data transfer, charging and docking with the Mate Dock 2, wow, which comes with every US model, and has another USB Type-A port USB Type-C port and HDMI port, and a VGA port for extra connectivity. Some users may dismiss the design of the original MateBook X, but the Hawaii compromises only make the new MateBook X Pro design better. It remains thin and light, even if it's not as wispy as it used to be. It's still slim and chic with solid construction that unmarried by necessary design features. Most importantly, Hawaii upgraded the specs for what users expect out of a flagship Ultrabook, and those internals can only benefit the MateBook X Pro when compared to devices like the new XPS 13 laptop and HP Spectre 13. And they have some pictures here, and they talk about the keyboard, the trackpad, the webcam, and software performance, and all of that. And you can look at that on the article if you want. I'm not gonna read those out because I think you'll be much better if you see them visually, to be honest. This article took my interest. It's about cars. As you may not know, I'm a massive automotive car fan. I can't really describe how big of a car fan I am, to be honest. Apart from a lot of video games I play involve cars or trucks or whatever. But anyway, a 5-litre V8 in the world of small capacity turbos, the Lexus CGSF. Now, the only car I liked that Lexus made was the LFA they made back in 2010-11. If you've never heard that car, just put that Lexus LFA sound into Google, and you may like it, you may not, but if you like it, you'll really like it, because it is just a beautiful, beautiful sound that I could just listen to all day. And whenever I listen to it, all I have on my face is a big smile. Anyway, so they say it's no secret that the V8 engine is going away of the manual transmission. The Northern White Rhino and original storytelling in the American cinema. Anyone who follows the automotive business or simply loves cars knows it. Yeah, I know that all too well. Unless the topic of discussion is Italian supercars and muscled up working pickups, the sun will inevitably rise on a day when most ripped of muscle cars, most aggressive sport and luxury machines will have to get by with 6 cylinders, a turbocharger, and simulated exhaust noises. So no more LFAs, fortunately. Swimming against the tide. So let's take a moment before we get rolling to state the Lexus for feet in its 2018 GSF, a proper naturally aspirated V8. The 5-litre 90-degree all-aluminium power plant features both direct and port injection variable valve timing for both intake and exhaust valves. Red lines a respectable 7,300 RPM. Meanwhile, Lexus rivals all header to small capacity turbocharged engines struggle to get past 6,500 RPM. The engine, the 2UG SE, to know in the point, puts out 467 horsepower, 389 pounds-feet of torque, route to 0 to 60 time in around 4.5 seconds, an 8-speed short shifting automatic transmission keeps everything moving smoothly with classic rear-wheel drive, which is cool as most car fans can't seem to go without rear-wheel drive. And also, quickly coming off topic, I wonder what you think of the video here with the lighting effect on in the dark, because it does brighten up, and I wonder whether you like that or whether you don't like that. Make sure to let me know in the comments. I think it makes it look better, to be honest. More like real life in a way. Anyway, back to this. Well, instead of Brembo brakes brings it to a stop in a sharp halt, those eye-opening specs, the car still insists on calling itself a luxury sedan. Amidst its lineup of comfort-based vehicles that are more aggressively tuned, F-Sport variants, Lexus didn't have to make the extra step of building the solely performance-acclaimed version of more tamed GS. The 2018 BMW M5, the king of mountain, and the car everyone dreams of unseating. Thus the Lexus power out easily, doing 600 genuine beasties horsepower, and 750 Newton meters or 553 pounds-feet of torque. However, the M5 blows past the GFS, is A4000 plus MSRP, priced by almost $20,000 US. Luxury sport sedan buyers who don't want to stretch the side north of six figures might consider the GSF as viable, if less refined and ambitious option. If they do, Lexus offers a good driving car, lowered and rounded, a sleek brawn smoothly to do clipped hunches. The GSF is a car that tells the world it can move, and I can certainly believe that. But that's about all I have time for in this video that I have of footage that I have recorded. So yeah, if you want to read more into these articles, I'll put the links down below, and I'll put the links to all of the ones I plan to talk about. And yeah, hopefully you enjoyed this, and tell me what you think of this new format. Hopefully you like it. Yeah, until next time, thanks for watching, and bye for now.